Greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to the Holistic Academy, the space where we blend timeless teachings with modern insights to help you navigate wellness in today's complex world. Today, we're talking all about the neuroscience of gratitude, how thank you rewires your brain and heals your body. I'm Amy, your host, and joining me is holistic coach and scientist David.
Hello, Amy, and it's always a pleasure to be here. And yes, today we are not late to the party because December can be the month of gratitude for all of us. So we are focusing on that theme that is very powerful and very practical, that is giving just or practicing gratitude in each of our days, even with one little thing that you can be grateful for each day, that's enough to make a difference in your biology. So it's not just the surface level, be thankful idea, but it's a deeper practice which actually changes our physiology. And we are going to explore that. We are going to see how also it changes our mindset and the way we move through the world.
Exactly, you're right. And gratitude isn't just a feel good practice, it's actually a transformative way of seeing, and as you said, David, being in the world. And in this episode, we will explore how to tap into gratitude, even on the days when it feels hard, and why these moments matter the most.
We'll talk about the science, we'll talk about the traditions, and we'll give you some simple ways to bring more gratitude into your daily life right away.
So settle in, take a breath, and let's begin today's journey into the heart of gratitude.
Amy, I was looking for some of the latest research of the fMRI data that is coming out of the Indiana University this morning, and it is fascinating that we used to think of gratitude as just manners or good education, a polite thank you to keep the social gears oiled. But when you look at the brain scans, it looks less like etiquette and more like a survival mechanism.
Right? Yeah, it's kind of like a metaphor, a difference between software and hardware. We used to think of gratitude as just a software, a nice attitude to have. But the research is showing that it actually upgrades the hardware and it physically changes our brain structure, as you've mentioned. But David, you know me, I always want to go back to the source. Before we get to the fMRI scans, we have to look at where the software comes from. It didn't start with us writing thank you notes.
Absolutely not. It started way before we even had language. If we look at the evolutionary timeline, gratitude is primal. It's deep in our phylogeny, the evolutionary history of organisms. Darwin himself hinted at this in The Descent of Man, suggesting that even animals feel complex emotions like jealousy and gratitude.
Animals, are we also thinking about the monkeys?
Exactly. For example, take the capuchins and they share food or grooming with another monkey that carries a real energy cost, especially in the wild, where every calorie matters. Nothing is, nothing is given away for free. Back in the 70s, Robert Trivers introduced the idea of reciprocal altruism. If I scratch your back today, there has to be some built-in assurance that you'll scratch mine tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm just giving resources away and lowering my chances of survival. So gratitude likely emerge as an emotional system that helps regulate this exchange. It is the internal signal that says, this individual supported me, so I value them. I should return the favor.
That's quite interesting because people think that you should be kind and give selflessly without an expectation of receiving back. However, as you're sharing in survival,
Mm.
it's a way of an attitude between the monkeys so that they can actually share with the assurance that by being kind and giving, they will get something back. But I'm wondering, are they calculating the number of bananas they've given away, or the back scratches, or the nitpicking out of their hair? Are they
Mm.
creating a spreadsheet in their heads? What are monkeys really doing?
Well, it's not as complex as that, but I think that it is a, let's say, healthier way to behave in the world when we expect that when we help another person, we are going to receive at some point the same help. This is just a concept and a belief of reciprocity. And that is what creates a stronger bond in relationships, because whenever you are giving and giving, you start building resentment because the other person is not doing anything. So that's also something that we can learn from this evolutionary history. And primates can't keep a ledger of I gave you 3 bananas last Tuesday. That's too much cognitive load for them, but evolution gave them a shortcut, a warm bonding emotion, gratitude. It makes them want to repay the favor, and we see this in upstream reciprocity, as we mentioned, or paying it forward. If a capuchin monkey receives a favor, they are statistically more likely to do something nice for a third monkey.
Kindness spreads out and it ripples out into their different families, I guess. But that is incredible. Seems like that gratitude is the biological basis of our social glue. It binds the troop together beyond just one-on-one deals. But David, what I love is tracking how that raw biological instinct, that monkey gratitude, has been refined by human culture. When we move from the jungle back to the city, gratitude stops being just about survival and becomes a virtue.
Exactly. And it's something that we are lacking of right now. I think that we see so many people that forget these simple manners of well education, and also that doing good for another human being, it's just gonna replicate as the example that we gave. So are you talking about the ancient philosophers?
As always, David, yes, I am. If we're coming away from the jungle back to the people, we could look at the Stoics. You know, we all do have that stereotype of the Stoics as emotionless, the stiff upper lip types, but they were obsessed with gratitude. Cicero, the Roman statesman, famously said, gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all the others.
Mhm. The parent of all the others. That's a bold claim.
It is, but think about it twice. Justice is just gratitude applied to society, giving people what they are owed. Filial piety is gratitude to parents, the people who gave us life and shaped our earliest world. In many cultures, especially in ancient China, it wasn't just a nice sentiment, it was considered the foundation of a moral life. You were grateful and you honored your parents not because you had to, but because the gratitude demanded it. Cicero saw as well that without gratitude the social contract falls apart. But my favourite is Epictetus. Here's a man who was a slave, crippled, lived a hard life, and yet he taught that gratitude was a cosmic duty. He had this beautiful metaphor of the banquet. If anything is brought to you, put out your hand and take it. If it passes you by, do not seek after it. If it has not yet come, do not stretch your desire towards it. Epictetus said that life is like being invited to a feast, that the food may come your way, the opportunities, the relationships, the moments of joy. You're meant to receive them with appreciation and not with greed. And then when the platter moves on, you don't cling or complain. You let it pass gracefully, knowing it was never really yours to begin with.
Well, that is just amazing how this ancient wisdom always gives you these clues about what we are doing wrong again, or what how we are, let's say, falling behind in the scale of evolution. And it really captures the idea that gratitude isn't just about saying thank you in the moment. It's a mindset and it's a way of moving through life without attachment or without resentment. The feast is always changing, and if we cling to what's gone or obsess over what's coming, we miss the richness of what's actually in front of us. And this is something that makes me think how also, and we are going to explore that in one of our first courses, and it is just a perfect moment to talk about it, because that is this reflection that we are making with the Greeks and with this philosophy of the Stoics brings us also the concept of how some people don't feel that they deserve certain things, so they don't accept them, and the feast passes by because they don't feel worthy. So we will explore those concepts. But Epictetus turns gratitude into a kind of freedom, a tool to navigate life's unpredictability with grace.
Yeah, absolutely, David. Wow, it's very interesting when we explore gratitude and how we relate to it in our modern lives. And yes, not deserving it isn't the best belief. We should be grateful for the opportunities that come our way. But also, as they said, not be resentful and upset with ones that haven't. But it's amazing. This guy, he was already teaching emotional regulation 2,000 years before we had a name for it. He basically said, I am a human being endowed with reason, so my duty is to respond to life with gratitude. So
Mm.
it's saying that it's a reasonable thing to be grateful for your life. For him, gratitude wasn't just a polite gesture or a fleeting feeling. It was the core responsibility of being human. Every moment, every challenge, every gift we receive was an opportunity to practice gratitude, and living without it, he implied, was like ignoring the very purpose of being a rational, conscious human. He extended gratitude as well beyond personal relationships to the universe itself. Loving the world, or God, or the natural order meant appreciating, as I said, what life presents, even those hardships. For Epictetus, I don't know even if I'm pronouncing his name right, but this amazing guy, for him, gratitude wasn't just a feeling, it was a way of being moral, honouring the good that comes to you, a way to respond rightly to life and recognise the value in everything we receive. So for me, he's a great example of something that we can all look up to and inspire to, and how we can rewire and reframe our beliefs to try and be grateful for every moment, even in the darkness.
With this small fragment that you are giving us and you are teaching us, I think you made me reflect of when I started to meditate and I went to some of the Buddhist classes, and one of the meditations that they do is to do this gratitude practice for every sentient being, closing your eyes and focusing on everyone, if the plants, the things that surround you, the air that you breathe, everything that you have. And once you finish that kind of meditation, you feel such a beautiful peace inside of you that lifts you up and gives you this booster, let's say. So it's interesting that you mention God, because that seems to be the pivot point. In evolutionary terms, gratitude is horizontal between me and you. And in the ancient philosophical and religious traditions, it becomes vertical between the human and the divine.
That's a good analytical point, David. I agree. It's a good distinction to make. So, moving into the world of religion, the very word for Jew, Yehudi, comes from the root YDH, which means to thank. So, gratitude is built right into their identity. There's also a concept called Hakarat and Hatov, which literally means recognizing the good. So it's not a passive thing that happens. You have to actively use your mind to look for the good in your life and acknowledge it. It's a practice that does take conscious effort, and it's a way of training your mind to notice and appreciate what's there. And for me, I once did a practice a bit different to your Buddhism practice, David, but that does sound wonderful. I once tried to learn a bit more about myself, so I spent a whole 24 hours making a conscious effort to see what things in the world I liked and I was grateful for and that I valued, and as well taking note of anything that I didn't like, which was a very small list, but it definitely managed to rewire my brain and see that there's so many things to look for that are good and beneficial to your life and things that we can be grateful for.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think we have so many examples of these practices that we can easily um, get inside of them in each of our days. So it is, as you mentioned, an active process, an active learning and cognitive process. Is not just a passive feeling, which is exactly what we tell patients to do in therapy now. Look for the good, it's ancient wisdom, repurposing the attentional focus.
Totally. And you do see it everywhere. Also, in Christianity, the central ritual is the Eucharist or Eucharistia, which literally means Thanksgiving. And I was also looking at Islam, and the contrast is striking because the Arabic word for disbelief is kufra, and it means to cover up or buried. So it almost suggests that God's goodness is obvious, but the disbeliever deliberately hides or ignores it. So the opposite of belief perhaps isn't atheism, it's ingratitude.
Well, I like that because I think that many people call themselves religious, but they are practicing ingratitude every time they also disrespect their own, let's say, bodies, their own health, their own uh, way of behaving. And it is not just showing off that you go to church every Sunday, but it's practicing more with your attitude. So I remember also a story about the Prophet Muhammad. Didn't he pray until his feet were swollen?
Yes, he did. And his wife Aisha asked him, "Why do you do this when your sins are already forgiven?" And he replied, "Shall I not be a grateful slave?" This was quite a powerful story, as to me it frames gratitude not as a transaction for future rewards, but as the only logical response to existence. So it's a powerful story when you dissect these different religious concepts, and there's some truth in them all.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. And even in the East, Amy, Buddhism carries the same thread. The Buddha spoke about Katnyahu or Katnyahu. I don't know if I pronounce it well as well, but that word means gratitude as a maker of integrity. So he used this striking image about honoring one's parent. Imagine carrying your mother on one shoulder and your father on the other for 100 years, taking care of every need, and even then, you could never fully repay them. That's how profound he saw gratitude. It's immeasurable and it's almost sacred.
Wow, that's some vivid imagery. I'm not sure I can imagine carrying both my mum and father on both shoulders. But yes, that's
Yeah.
interesting, the stories that the Buddha has too, because that makes a lot of sense for showing how important gratitude is in our daily lives.
Yeah. So it's very vivid. And the point was that even that we wouldn't repay the debt of life, the only way to be virtuous is to honor them and is to help them become wise and virtuous. It's about spiritual elevation, not just the material payback.
I love that. Yes, gratitude is a form of growth, not just a checklist of favors and giving our parents gifts and money. It's also about being an honorable human and teaching us lessons about life. It's like saying as well that the real repayment isn't about what you give, like gifts and chores, but about how you're helping someone and being a better, wiser person for yourself. So it
Mm.
really does, this concept, flip the usual idea of paying someone back on its head. It appears it appears then, David, over this little podcast segment that we have had a massive historical consensus from the jungle to the temple. Everyone agrees gratitude is essential. But David, can you put your biologist hat back on? Does modern science actually back this up, or is it just a placebo?
Oh no, it's much more than a placebo. So let's go back to that reflection that I was making about the Indiana University study at the start of this episode. They took people that were struggling with anxiety and depression and had them write gratitude letters for 3 weeks. 3 months later, long after the writing stopped, they put them in an fMRI scanner and their brains were different. Specifically, the medial prefrontal cortex, which is this small region here, this is the area responsible for decision making and social reward. So the grateful brains showed significantly increased neural sensitivity in the medial prefrontal cortex, and they had effectively rewired their brains to be more sensitive to positivity. It's like they upgraded their antenna to pick up a clearer signal of good.
Wow, that's neuroplasticity 101. Neurons that fire together, wire together. So, just as you said, David, if you practice looking for the good, you build a super highway in your brain for joy.
Exactly. And it is not just this medial region, it is also the amygdala. That's the brain security guard. So the alarm bell for fear and stress, it's also being impacted by this gratitude practice. And research from the UCLA or the UCLA University show that gratitude practice actually down regulates the amygdala. So it gives you this sensation that we were talking of being peaceful. It calms the security guard down, and that's why gratitude is such a powerful intervention for anxiety. So you are literally telling your fight or flight system, we are safe, we have enough.
Wow, that's some interesting science there. But I agree, there's so much to resonate with that. And let's not forget also the chemical cocktail of our hormones. When that happens, I guess we get a big release of dopamine, the motivation molecule, and serotonin, which is a
Mm.
natural antidepressant, in fact.
Yeah, indeed. So, an oxytocin, the bonding hormone, because gratitude is inherently relational, you are usually grateful to someone. It flows the system with trust chemicals. It's the biological antidote to isolation.
Wow, that's good to know. So, feeling gratitude would help activate so many different emotions. I wish I knew that in COVID when we were forced into isolation. Gratitude would hopefully be that cure for our stress,
Mm.
confusion, and separation. So, cognitively, when your brain is flooded with dopamine and oxytocin, your amygdala is calm and you think differently. So, we'll be able to make different decisions and potentially use that time as a time for developing ourselves personally rather than staying in fear, which I think is was a really difficult time for everyone. So gratitude whenever you're feeling sick, unwell, fearful or separated is definitely a practice we should come back to. And the best thing is it's totally free.
Yeah, and it is amazing that we are touching on that topic of how we felt during this COVID pandemic, because it is, instead of just being advertised by the news that we should be fearful and we should be looking at the drama that all of these platforms showed us, we could be smarter and focusing ourselves in what we have, that was time. We never had so much time in our hands, and we never had the opportunity to not be in a rush. So if we could do that kind of practice, I think that for a lot of people it would have boosted their immune system.
I agree, David. Have you heard of the broaden and build theory?
Yes, Barbara Fredrickson work, is that correct?
Yeah, it's crucial here with what we're speaking about because just as you were sharing, those negative emotions like fear and anger can give us tunnel vision and they narrow our focus to the threat. Like, there's a tiger, run.
Mm.
But as we were saying, positive emotions like gratitude do the opposite. They broaden our awareness. We become more creative, more open, more willing to connect. And over time, that builds resources, friends, skills, resilience. So, not only that, I think there's a frequency scale of our different emotions and how what levels we vibrate as a human being in ourselves with these different vibrations. And just as I was sharing all those amazing things that come from gratitude, I believe gratitude and authenticity are right at the top of that scale too. So it's a
Mm.
great frequency to be in. And as I said, you can attract many different things and opportunities and yeah, develop your life much easier in that mindset.
And it is also very important that we mention that this sentiment of gratitude also inoculates us against toxic emotions. So there is this idea of the incompatibility hypothesis. You can't be grateful and envious at the same time.
Exactly. That is a really good point. There was a study, in fact, with Chinese undergraduates that showed gratitude negatively predicts malicious envy. So if you're busy appreciating what you have, you don't have the bandwidth to resent what your neighbor has. And it shifts you from upward social comparison, looking at who has more, to just enjoying the present.
That is so truthful, because I also, but sometimes when I was competing in swimming, I used to focus on the place that I was at, and instead of doing that, one of my coaches told me, "What? Just focus on yourself and how you improve towards your own scores or time." So that was a very powerful strategy because once I did that, I was feeling much better, and also I was improving faster. So there is also another cognitive effect that blows my mind, Amy, and it's about money.
Money?
Yes, patience, really. Temporal discounting, that's the tendency to take £10, let's say, now instead of 20 next week. So we are usually terrible at waiting, but a study by David Desteno found that people induced to feel gratitude were significantly more patient. They were willing to wait for the larger future reward.
Hmm. That makes sense because if gratitude signals abundance and that I have enough, you're not operating from that scarcity mindset. You don't need to grab the marshmallow right now.
Exactly. So it's the grateful are patient. It's a mechanism for self control.
So we've got a better brain, better emotional regulation, better decision making. This gratitude stuff is amazing. But David, you're a physiologist. Does this actually touch the body or is it all just in our head?
Oh, no. It really touches the body and it really, really changes the mind body connection. So here is um, an incredible and direct fact. So let's talk about the heart. There was a presentation at the American College of Cardiology recently, which was the field study. They took patients with stage 1 and stage 2 hypertension, real blood pressure issues, and one group did the standard treatment. The other added gratitude journaling. After 12 weeks, the gratitude group saw their systolic blood pressure drop by 7.6 millimeters of mercury.
Wow, 7.6, David. That's better than some medications.
Indeed, it is clinically significant, and they also look at flow mediated dilation, basically how well your blood vessels open up, and the gratitude group improved by over 4%. Their arteries were literally relaxing. And this is something that now made me remember what Joe Dispenza says during his advanced workshops, that when they practice the gratitude meditation during these advanced workshops, the participants feel the expansion of their heart. And that's what starts releasing these powerful hormones that we mentioned before.
Wow, that relaxation is so powerful because I guess they're not being distracted by the stress of society, bathing in cortisol, the inflammation hormone.
Precisely. So that brings us to inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the killer behind heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and many others. So Paul Mills and his team did a study with heart failure patients, and they found that gratitude journaling for just 8 weeks significantly reduced inflammatory biomarkers, specifically IL-6, that is associated with inflammation, and protein, the CRP, which also is associated and is a biomarker of inflammation and even with heart failure.
Wow, it's really amazing. So, as we've mentioned, it's better than medication, and gratitude is essentially an anti inflammatory drug. We should be practicing it every day, every moment, every minute.
Yes, and we can do it if we start making it a habit. So, in a way, This powerful practice calms the sympathetic nervous system, and we see this in sleep too. You know the study by Alex M. Wood, the one about pre sleep cognitions?
I'm not so sure. Tell me.
Well, it turns out that the reason grateful people sleep better isn't magic. It's because of what they think about right before they close their eyes. Grateful people have more positive pre sleep cognitions. They aren't ruminating on the fight they have or the bill they have to pay. They are thinking about the good things, and that shifts the nervous system into rest and digest, and they sleep longer and deeper.
It's so simple, yet so profound. We spend so much time and money on pills, biohacks, and therapy, and yet here is this ancient technology, gratitude, recognized already by the chimpanzees, codified by the Stoics, sanctified by the prophets, and as I mentioned, we can all access it for free at any moment.
Yes, and the data that we have now on all of these measurements and biomarkers that we can track now, it's undeniable. So it rewires the medial prefrontal cortex, it calms the amygdala, it lowers blood pressure, it reduces inflammation, and makes us nicer people. So this should be advertised instead of these Pfizer commercials.
Exactly. Gratitude is the best attitude. And as Cicero said, the parent of all virtues. But maybe we can add it's the parent of all health too.
So true.
So I guess the only thing left to do now is to summarize all these points of gratitude into holistic living lifestyle tips.
Yes, we can definitely find some easy ways to think and feel better by practicing gratitude. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, David. So here's some tips for living a healthy, happier, and holistic life. Number one, we can all start our mornings with recognizing the good. Before you reach your phone or get out of bed, you could place your hand on your heart and just name one thing you appreciate, whether that's a warm bed, a job, a safe home, a new day. That also activates what we mentioned with Jewish traditions and what they call Hekarat Hatov, actively looking for the good with the divine too, and it primes our brain it primes our brain's medial prefrontal cortex for positivity all day long, just with that one goodness thought at the beginning. Number two, I'm sure you've heard of it, but journal. Keep a 2-minute gratitude journal. There's no perfection required. Each evening you could just jot down 3 things if you're more of an evening person. And you could write anything, no matter how small. You were grateful for a smile, a cup of tea, a moment of peace. But research still shows that this simple practice at night can lower inflammation, improve your sleep, and strengthen your overall emotional resilience. Number 3, we've been saying that it's better than medication and it's the drug for curing all things like stress. So we could use gratitude to break the stress response. The next time you notice you feel stressed, nervous, or anxious, pause, take a breath, and name one thing that's going well right now. It might even be that, you're able to walk and you're able to function in the office or stand up and go to the toilet. But even if that's the only thing going well right now, you should be able to name it. And that really helps to calm that amygdala, lower cortisol, and signals the nervous system that we are safe. It's the physiological reset button. Number 4, the upstream kindness principle. That's the pay it forward principle that we were inspired by our primates in the reciprocity studies. So remember, when someone does something kind for you, you also want to do something kind perhaps for something else. Start that chain of gratitude and kindness. This can boost serotonin, expand your social connection, and helps your brain build a positive feedback loop. And I've seen in some films that sometimes someone pays for the person's meal in the queue behind them. And what's quite surprising is then the person behind them pays for the person behind them. So it almost does pass on that chain of gratitude. And number 5, use gratitude to cultivate patience and reduce those impulse decisions or those decisions you later regret. So gratitude helps us shift from that fear or scarcity into that calm, rational, logical space. So before making an important choice, something financial, emotional, relational, just pause and ask, what do I already have that I'm grateful for? Gratitude can shift the brain out of the scarcity mode, improving our self-control and long-term decision making.
Yeah. So it's just amazing how many of these practices are so simple, are free, and they don't involve too much time. And you can just begin with one of the things that you are grateful for and then scale up to 2 every week, to 3 to 4 until you arrive to 5, let's say, and you can repeat this cycle until you make it a habit. And doing that, I think it's gonna give you this boost in your health that is amazing and that we are talking about.
It really seems so transformational. I never knew how important gratitude was until we started diving deeper today and researching it this week. But as we close today's conversation on gratitude, we do want to give you a glimpse into next week because we're taking everything you've learned and building on it in a really big way.
Yes, so next week we are diving into abundance and not just the idea of abundance. We touched on that more or less in the first weeks, but the science, the psychology, and the energy that make manifestation actually work.
Yeah, the next episode is called, are we allowed to share the name? The Abundance Blueprint, manifesting with mind, body, and biology. Because abundance isn't a miracle, it's a pattern. It's a shift in the way you think, the way you feel, and the way your nervous system responds to opportunity.
And this is just amazing because we will explore how visualization changes neural pathways, how your beliefs influence financial behavior, and why people who feel abundant create more abundance.
Exactly, and we're going to be bridging those ancient prosperity teachings with cutting edge neuroscience so you can understand manifestation from both the mystical and the measurable.
So, if you are ready to step out of scarcity mode and step into the version of yourself that magnetizes wealth, creativity, and opportunity for 2026 and onwards, then join us next week as we unlock this blueprint to abundance from the inside out.
Exactly, and until then, stay grateful, stay grounded, and stay open because your abundance journey has already begun. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Definitely comment if anything stood out, any nuggets of wisdom, and share with a friend if it was useful. We look forward to seeing you next week. And yeah, as always, take care and have a brilliant week.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, everyone. And as Amy remind you, please help us to rate us in each of the apps. You can subscribe in Substack. We are going to have a lot of surprises for 2026. We are going to start releasing courses, so be prepared. And you will be able to help us in a future way that we are designing. So let's just stay tuned with us and ask us questions or suggest topics that we can touch on. Thank you, and we will listen to each other on our next week.
Bye, everyone.